Right, everyone, Ange Postecoglou is back in Australia for the first time since 2017. Here he is in front of the Sydney Harbour Bridge, I believe, Scott. See, I've been doing my research, just promoted the Sydney Super Cup at the moment, Ange. That's what he's doing. Is there plenty of Ange in the news down under, Scott?
Yes, there is. He's been meeting a lot of people. Obviously, it's like you said, it's been a long time since he came back to Australia. It's wonderful to have him back at this period, albeit hopefully got over a few things on that long flight back to Australia. See, after a frustrating week for him, but it's great for that. And obviously, the Socceroos are playing up here in Brisbane tomorrow night as well. So there's a lot of attention around the football world at the moment. And yeah, everyone's excited about Celtic coming in November, especially me.
Have you worked out your plans? Are you going to be at the games?
Yes, well, thankfully, I'm actually going to be part of the whole setup as an ambassadorial role, which is really, really good for that. With obviously the company that's organised the event itself, so I'm really looking forward to obviously Celtic coming over and obviously playing in the newest stadium in Australia as well, which Ange was at earlier today as well, promoting, and he met up with the Sydney Celtic supporters as well. A few of them were there to meet him and organise obviously a few things. Hopefully that are going to go on while the games are going ahead, and there's a few tournaments and everything else that Celtic have organised as well from a youth perspective. So there's a lot happening down here once the games are coming. So it's really going to be excellent for Celtic in terms of from a brand perspective as well. So excited to be a part of it, and it's going to be great.
Fantastic. So Ange is back home. He gave an interesting interview to Code Sports, which I believe is kind of like the Athletic down under. He spoke about Tom Rogic, Aaron Moy, Harry Kewell and much more. We've got some comments to bring up as we go along in this video. Shall we go back to Sunday, though? Just briefly, I did say on, I think, Monday's video that I was done and I wasn't going back. But, Scott, it did occur to me that you know St Mirren boss Stephen Robinson from your time at Motherwell. Just watching that game, you know, he's clearly a very tactically astute manager. Were there any kind of takeaways that you got watching that game on Sunday?
Oh, they're just structurally sound. They really wanted to get themselves to face as well. They know, obviously, coming off the back of the Champions League, being at home particularly, it's always the best time to catch, Celtic or anyone that's come off a European tie away from home, then to play away from home again. It's difficult to get yourself up for that. Obviously, a disappointment as well for Celtic midweek, which Ange clearly stated. It was there, the frustration, and I think a lot of frustration again with you're doomed if you don't, and doomed if you do at times. You make that many changes, and it doesn't work. So everyone's going to criticise that, but a wonderful opportunity for those players. But again, does he do it again? Probably more unlikely to do so if this was ever to happen again. Look, one thing I will say about Stephen Robinson's team, they are organised. They are always structurally very good because he works on it day in, day out, particularly if it's coming up to, one of the bigger teams. There's a lot of mannequins out on the field, and in terms of positional play when we don't have the ball. So always very, very difficult to break down. He makes his team very difficult in that sense. And then if he gets the opportunity, he will be physical and direct as well and try and attack the goal as quickly as he possibly can and try and get crosses in the box. And we've seen that on the weekend.
Was it just an off day, Asim? Simple as that.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not going to lie. When the team news came out, I wasn't overly concerned. I know there was a lot of people saying that's maybe too many changes even before the game. But from my point of view, I look back at the Ross County game, for example, and it was quite a similar lineup to then, and we dealt with that no problem. I wasn't thinking, okay, it's far too many changes. There's been so much chat recently about the strength and depth of the squad and the fact that anyone can come in and there doesn't seem to be too much of a drop off. Obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and now you maybe look at the kind of combinations of who was playing in terms of like your wide players. Jota and Haksabanovic are two of our more kind of creative ones. So when they're both out, you've got Abada and Maeda who are quite similar, that they're not as creative, but obviously have their own strengths. Same with the Turnbull and Moy kind of combination. So I don't know if it was just like you said, maybe the wrong time to make those changes, but as Scott alluded to as well, sometimes you just come off a Champions League game and you're just not quite on it, and the opposition sense that. And I think St Mirren at no point looked threatened, and that was the kind of frustrating thing. We just didn't get going at any point. And even when you make those changes at half time, it was just so hard for anyone to get into some kind of rhythm. I didn't ever feel like we were going to score.
It's horrible being involved in those games, guys. I've got to say, like being there before, coming off European games, then having to play away from home thereafter. It's a little bit easier when you play at home after you play an away game. Obviously, you needed that little bit of luck of the draw to get that. I think Celtic had that probably last year more than not, right? When they were playing in Europe, they were playing home a lot of the time more than away. This time it's fallen an away game, and you watch the first 10 minutes for me, and you could sense it was just the pace of the game. It was slow and it wasn't sharp from Celtic, and you could just go, I hope it's not one of these days. Need something special to drop here to spark them into life. And it just never came. And then obviously the more it goes, the more frustration. And then they get that goal before half time, and it really puts you, behind the eight ball. And Celtic, it's a long way up there, and you try and make those changes. But it's one of those days where everything you try just doesn't seem to come off. And you do get those days, unfortunately. It's easy to say that, but at times you can't see it coming probably as a coach or a player, but sometimes you just can't get yourself out of that hole in that situation. But look, there's a lot of football to be played, and there's no panic buttons just yet. And I think the break's come at a very good time now, in a reset mode, and a chance to then take off again once the break is done.
Yeah, Ange was touching on that in Sydney today, saying, I don't take losses well, never have, be it my first job at South Melbourne or now. If I knew we were going to win all the time, I'd get bored of it pretty quickly. We've got to sit on it for a couple of weeks, but at the same time, we've been on an extraordinary run. The players have been unbelievable over the last 15 or 16 months with the progress we've made, and this is just part of it. Learn from it, grow from it, and come back stronger. I get the impression that we're going to come back stronger from this, that Ange tends to kind of learn lessons from things going wrong. Doesn't happen too often, but last season starting Kyogo wide left against Rangers, I think he admitted that was a mistake after the game, and we never saw it again. We know that Ange feels that he maybe his team selection wasn't quite right on Sunday, because he said that as well. So I think we'll learn from it. And Scott, maybe not a bad thing as well for the players, just to have been so amazing over the last year and winning all these games and scoring 9 and 7 and 6, just to remember that, Scottish football's a tough place at times, especially away from home.
Well, it is, isn't it? I mean, 364 days unbeaten is something, isn't it? It's an incredible achievement. And, I think everyone can get a little bit down and upset because with Champions League football as well, and the expectation of that and the disappointment of playing so well midweek and not taking your chances and feeling that you'd lost points rather than gained a point, and taking that disappointment into the weekend from a fan perspective, then it just blows everything up, doesn't it? But still 2 points ahead in the league. Still, obviously, got an opportunity in the Champions League. Obviously, probably need to win the next one against Leipzig to really, catch Shakhtar. You'd like to think around to take the points there. But yeah, you're right. I think the players will reset. It's a little bit of a shake-up for them and go, right, we can't take anything for granted. We need to get back on the horse, and we need to get going again quick, and we need to start playing as well as we can again. But also, I think as well, it shows you that certain balances within the team, you said there, you can't change probably certain players within your spine. That's what I would say. In terms of, I'm not sure what was wrong with Carter Vickers as well. That was an interesting one.
There was an injury.
Okay, so he needed a break because really, really missed him. And then it's just hard. I don't think there's a replacement for O'Reilly within that team now that Tommy's gone. I think he's the one that sort of does different things within that midfield, and when he's not in there, it changes the whole dynamics of the midfield for me. And obviously, Rio Hatate is Hatate. That balance of those three, I think we said at the start of the season, I think the guys, it's always going to be hard to break that three for me, and it's proving that way at the moment.
We do have Abildgaard. Asim, is he someone who could, offer us another option in the middle of the park?
Well, we certainly hope so, don't we? I mean,
Not that I'm writing off Aaron Moy, by the way, because I quite like Aaron Moy, just to get that out there for you Aussies.
Yeah, look, I think Moy's got his role to play. You just wonder though, can McGregor now play that little bit more advanced role that he plays, that specialised 6 role more so now? I think it's much more difficult for him to switch that back on and play a more advanced role. I think he plays that 6 role so wonderfully for Celtic and connects brilliantly. So it's hard when you get into a rhythm, and which he has done for so long, then to go back to his old self. I think that's where the balance becomes a little bit difficult for Celtic in that midfield space when they want to play Moy and McGregor together, because you're never going to not want to play your captain, but it's what's around your captain that's going to be the test, going forward at those times when you need to rest certain players.
Asim?
Yeah, I think especially domestically for me, I totally agree, Scott, that once it seems like Callum's been so used to playing that role now as the kind of pivot who's receiving the ball from your fullbacks, from your centre backs, and just kind of constantly moving that ball around. So when he gets played a bit further forward, it's suddenly adapting to a new role where he's maybe having to be a bit more incisive and creative, which he's not become accustomed to doing in more recent times. I think in Europe it could work with like an Abelgard or and then Callum kind of playing slightly more ahead, because, for example, in Leipzig away we might need to be a bit more conservative in that sense. But domestically, when we're trying to especially break down teams who've got so many players back and playing really deep, you want that kind of speed of play, which Callum provides from the 6. And then, like Scott mentioned, you've got the likes of O'Reilly or Hatate who've got that kind of incisive. I know, like with Hatate especially, he tries things. He'll try a through ball. Might not always come off, but just having someone now that a bit of kind of spark and trying to find that incisive pass just helps. And I think it was just one of those things. It just came out of nowhere, the defeat, but like we've done so well for so long that I like the Ange's line as well about saying how sometimes it does serve as a reminder. Just we've still got a long way to go. There's still progress to be made. And yeah, as a player, Scott, would you say like going into the international break, is it a good time for players after a defeat to maybe get a new, or do you just itching to get back onto the next game domestically?
There's never a good time, for sure. I think it's worse when there's like a longer break, because you haven't got the chances to bounce back straight away. From a domestic point of view, because you just want to get back out there and put it right and make sure that everyone's happy. I think, from a outside perspective, there's no noise. I think the noise lasts a little bit longer when there is a break, for sure. But again, it's nice when you get the opportunity to go away internationally, refresh, be out of the environment, and come back and go, hey, good to see everyone again. Let's go. Let's start. So, and majority of those players hopefully go away and do that and come back injury free.
Just to move it on slightly, Scott, last time we spoke to you was just prior to the Champions League draw. Congratulations on the Real Madrid shout, by the way. You nailed that. You must be pretty pleased about that.
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah. I can foresee the future, Hamish, yes.
Incredible. And what have you made generally of our first couple of matches in the competition?
Look, it's been great. I've done a bit of coverage with the Australian TV here for the first game against Real Madrid, and I thought we were exceptional. For 60 minutes, we went toe to toe with the European champions, and it was a game of chances, wasn't it? I think we take the chances when they came, changes the whole dynamic so that it's not a 3-0 game realistically. But it took a little bit of wind out of sails, that the disappointment of getting beat 3-0, I think. I bounced back exceptionally well. It's really good football being played by Celtic. You'd have to say we've gone toe to toe with both teams, and should have probably beat Shakhtar. The chances were there again. So at this level, though, it's so important when the chances come, you take them. Look, this team's a lot different to, and probably Brendan Rodgers' team was the same a little bit. That Ange mentioned it. I mentioned it probably over here in the punditry, but that even Ange mentioned about half his team can't get on a ride at Disneyland. Where in terms of previous campaigns under Gordon Strachan, Neil Lennon, and Martin O'Neill, there was a physical element to those teams, and for what you lacked in terms of possession, it was if you got a set piece, there was an opportunity, there was a chance, there was a real huge threat within the team, and you could hear the crowd just go, because this is the chance. So they don't have that up their sleeve in these Champions League games, and they're having to go toe to toe with the same things that the opposition are good at too. Which they've done more than enough to, by the way. So no criticism there, but they need to take those opportunities when they come at the highest level. They're getting probably Celtic at the moment, where domestically give you our chances and not take them and capitalise, and Celtic punish you. And Celtic have been on the end of that a little bit in the Champions League.
You're probably a pretty good guy to ask about big chances in the Champions League because you scored a lot of goals. Some of them not even from real chances. I mean, the Man United one is a half chance, if that. How do you get to the point where you're taking the big chances? Is it much harder in Europe? Do you have things going on in the back of your mind?
No, I don't know. Again, that's just down to the individual. I think, though, if you miss one, it certainly plays a big part in the rest of the game for you because you go, ooh, that's the chance that could have got us, ahead here or an opportunity to win the game. I don't know if I'm going to get another one of them. The Maeda probably chance spelled that out more than anything. Just after half time against Real Madrid, really. From close range, just probably wasn't ready for the opportunity just not at half time. So I think that plays its part on the team itself because when the chances come, you're not going to get many of them. All Celtic, Celtic got off to a great start against Shakhtar though, and you're thinking, okay, and then obviously they get the equaliser and you get the chance again. Look, I think Celtic really got to just take confidence from that though, guys. In terms of Leipzig have been struggling as well, but they really need to get something from that game to just keep in touch in distance to Shakhtar to have any chance of getting to that last 16, which is a possibility still.
Asim, where are we generally this season? What have you made of the first couple of months?
Well, it's been a great start. I think the last couple of weeks have just been a bit strange. Obviously, with the Livingston game getting postponed, I don't think helped us. We were kind of in a good place momentum wise, and I don't think that came at the right time. And obviously we've gone 3 without defeat, but 2 of them are Champions League games, which have been both encouraging in their own rights. So I would rate it a very kind of good start. Obviously, domestically we were flying up until the weekend. It was flawless, and there's a lot to be taken in terms of both the results and the manner of the results. We're scoring lots of goals. We were keeping clean sheets. In terms of Champions League, I still think we're in a good position. The way the group's kind of working out, it's really up for grabs for that second spot. Like you, Scott, I was very encouraged with both our performances. I think everyone was full of praise, obviously, for 60 minutes of the Madrid game. And then in Shakhtar, I was there, and the feeling in the stadium at the time as well was like, we can win this. And how often are you away in a Champions League game and you're wanting the game to go on at one each? You're like, we're the team pushing for it, and the Shakhtar players were on their last legs at the end, and that in itself is very encouraging because that's rare in my time supporting Celtic, that we're going away from home and we're the team that's dominating. So I just think now it's time to actually obviously become a bit more ruthless and clinical and get the rewards that we probably deserve. And we've got a great chance now. We've got 3 games against Shakhtar and Leipzig, home and away. So I think definitely an opportunity for second there. And I'm quite confident that if we can avoid defeat in Leipzig, it sets us up brilliantly for the 2 home games. And that's what we wanted to see going into the Champions League this season. That we can compete, and we're actually put ourselves in, but by not losing in Warsaw there, we put ourselves in a good position here to make a right good go of it. So I think there's a lot to be encouraged about. Obviously the disappointment of Sunday, but I think, like Ange said, he doesn't sit well in these defeats, and I think he'll make sure, and the players will be hurting as well, and I think we'll come back pretty strong. And it's a good game, Motherwell at home. It's a good one to kind of come back to. So I'm looking forward to that, and yeah, big month ahead, October, as you said in yesterday's video. Lots of exciting ties.
Definitely, Celtic in a good place on the pitch, off the pitch as well. The club seems to be too. PLC annual results for the year up to the end of June 2022 were released yesterday. I'm going to do a deeper dive into this tomorrow. The key findings, I think, are that revenue has increased by 45%, over 45% to 88.2 million. That was at 60.8 million a year ago. Operating expenses are up. The gain on player sales is up to 29 million. Profit is up. There was a loss of 11 million last year, now a profit of over 6, and there's more money in the bank. So we're in a good place. Asim, was there any takeaways from you from reading that yesterday? I put you right in at the deep end here with the financials. I apologise.
No, that's yeah. It's been obviously in a very kind of healthy position at the moment, and that's the benefit of this kind of guaranteed Champions League money as well. You just know, you know what's coming in, and the fact that we've got that opportunity again going into next season if we win the league, it just it gives the club both on the pitch and off the pitch really tangible kind of goals to hit, and you just know that it'll stand you in good stead. Obviously with the player sales, I'm trying to think. We didn't really have any big sales this summer, did we? I'm trying to think.
No, I think would that be last year potentially?
Previous,
yeah, because it'd be from July last year up until the end of June. So you'd be talking Edward, Ayer, Christie.
Yeah, and we've got quite a few saleable assets, but obviously that's not something we want to think about. We want to see this team develop and progress, but it's nice to know that the club are in such a healthy position that we don't need to. We're not in a position where we have to look at selling players, and yeah, we've got you get money for obviously each result in the Champions League as well. So there's plenty more encouragement to take in terms of where we are both on and off the pitch. So yes, it's kind of a good time for Celtic right now.
Great stuff. Right, we'll leave it there for now. Scott will catch up with you next week when we'll be looking ahead to the game against your former team Motherwell. Asim will catch up with you soon on the channel as well. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will be back tomorrow.